Hey, it's working now. That's good. That's good. Chris Courtney here, new Pragmatic. Pre-show. Officially engaged. Seems like it takes a minute, but that's alright. Every time I move my computer, it's like I have to, when I reconnect, sometimes the camera, there's like two ports on the right side of the machine. And sometimes if it's the port closest to the wall, the camera will not engage. But if it's the port closest to me, camera engages. I couldn't tell you what the difference is on this particular build, but that's the structural things we work against. Hope you're doing good this morning. We're in the pre-show. I saw something that I wanted to bring to light, and you might not think politics has a lot to do with your day to day, but I wanted because we're so tethered to the remote environment, because we're so tethered to Zoom calls and Google Meets and Discord chats. I think it's important to talk about connecting through the camera. It's not something that a lot of people have a lot of experience with, but there is a psychological trigger that happens when you speak directly to a person. And it's not something that we often can do. A lot of times, and this is really something I think is fascinating. I think it's fascinating. We talk about building products and making them trustworthy all the time. And yet, it's very difficult for us to connect with people when we speak. A lot of times we want to look away, or we want to kind of move around the room. We're trained to do that when we present. When we present in person, we're trained to move around the room, talk to different people, try to connect, right? But the ability to speak into one camera that then has you speaking directly back to a wave of people individually on their own screens, that's new. That's something unique. Now, it's not new from the perspective of television, for instance. They've had that capability forever. The ability to look directly into the camera and speak to the people and connect. That's been something that has always been there. But we've used it sparingly. We've used it sparingly because I think there's something slightly disconcerting about somebody being able to stare into your soul. However, there's a story out on Fast Company this morning that speaks about the effectiveness of the Democratic National Convention. I'm sure the Republicans are going to do the same thing. They're smart people. Everybody's got smart strategists on their team. What they found was there's a psychological trigger about trustworthiness when somebody speaks directly to you. So, of course, the entire convention was set up with speakers speaking directly to you. And this got me thinking about how we tend to interview. And the fact that each of you, if you're presenting to, I said interview, but really it's any sort of presentation. If you're presenting to an internal team or if you're interviewing for a new job, you're likely, for the foreseeable future, going to be doing it through a medium like this. And what that means is that you need to get really comfortable with being able to stare into a camera and speak directly to the person on the other side, calmly, clearly, and be comfortable with the way that you look on the other side of that camera. And a lot of us aren't. I just want to own that right away. When I talk to students on the daily, I see a lot of shifting. It's a lot of, not quite comfortable with that camera pointing back at them. And I know firsthand. My daughter's suspicious of all of those electronic devices and recordings and all that stuff. So I get it. I get it. But if you're going to put your best foot forward during that presentation, during that interview, you need to get comfortable with the camera. And that's something that we really have, I haven't really coached people on that, because up to this point, you know, when you go in for an interview, you typically go in for the interview. And once you're in a room, it's different. Nobody stares directly at one another. But Zoom and the Zoom world that we live in now has altered engagement. And that's when people talk about Zoom fatigue, what they're talking about is the tiredness that kicks in after you've been engaging directly into a camera for a meeting. Because unlike the past, where people weren't quite so focused on whether you kind of were off, or maybe you were like looking down, you know, writing something, now they pay attention to that. Now because everybody's on camera. Okay? And it also means that if you're the type that likes to shut your camera off, or and I've had students that for all sorts of reasons did not want to have their camera on. Okay? That's going to put you at a disadvantage when it comes to interviewing. So I saw that article. I'll link to it because I'm going to break this apart. I'm going to break this apart from the regular recording, and I will link to it in the recording so that you can go read it. I think it's worth a read, and I'm not trying to push Democrat or Republican agenda. I think it's just really interesting how political parties are leveraging a psychological trait that could benefit you when you're out there trying to communicate with your teams, when you're trying to communicate with potential employers. So with that, I'm going to check CouchBot, and it looks like CouchBot has fired. So we can get this underway. Greetings one and all, Chris Courtney here, new Pragmatic. It's time for the feedback loop. I am so excited to have you along. We are about to jump into a trio, a medley, if you will, of student projects. Eve's here, Luigi's here, Rebecca's here. Just in the pre-show, I was talking about the power of eye contact via the camera and how you can psychologically build trust with your teammates and with your potential employers and clients. Go check that out. If you're watching the feedback loop, go into the YouTube channel. Check that out. Also, it wouldn't be a bad time to hit that subscribe button. So I will jump right in. I'm going to share my screen, and let's take a look. Let's take a look at some projects. So we're going to start here. We have Luigi up. All right. So Luigi's up on screen, and Luigi's in version 7 of his wireframe. But the good news here is I chatted with Luigi yesterday. I'm just going to hide my tools here. By the way, that is option pipe or option backslash or forward. Is it forward slash? It goes this way. I think it's backslash. Yeah, forward slash is underneath the question mark. Anyway, I digress. So we're going to zoom. Actually, I'm going to zoom out because I want to see. Okay, so it doesn't look like Luigi left his. It doesn't look like Luigi left his when wireframes he was working on over here off to the side. Did not leave those up. So I am. I'm going to zoom in here, and the way that this is working is. The idea is you've clicked on cart, and the cart drops down, and you see what's in the cart, and you can continue to check out. So here in the checkout, there is, what's interesting, Luigi, is everything in here is centered, except for order type and this. And I'm not sure, there's so much of me that wants to just say, okay, just align this stuff at least to the left, and then there's part of me that says, well, just make this centered, pick a direction. Okay, from a alignment perspective, like just pick a direction. Once you do that, I think you'll be fine. But this is so they've come through and they've said, okay, I'm going to check out. Now they're in checkout. They've said delivery. I think this should be like pick a like again, pick a direction. So there's probably a step one, pick your order type, pick up delivery. So this is the delivery section. Then you get the address, add an address to so we can get your order started. So they've added 250 Flatbush Avenue. This gives you a drop down. So once you select one of these, it shows you this for confirmation. I think that's smart. Confirm address. I'm going to click that, and it's interesting. It says confirm address, and then it seems like it almost seems like this confirm address should be like confirm address. Like that's the next step that would trigger the next screen. So is this your address? Yes. Okay, I'm going to confirm the address. And then now we're in delivery time. You know, and it's ASAP. Later, you've got a couple of drop downs. What day? What time? I don't necessarily know if this should this be above? I mean, because it's like an instruction to tell you what to do with these drop downs. So I think that this should actually be up here. And in much the same way, I was thinking that here as well. Add your address so we can get your order started, and you enter the address, and then you get this information. So I think there's maybe a flip of that instruction, like having the instruction after the action seems odd. Oh, and it's a drop up. That's interesting. I'm not sure why it would go up rather than down, because it's pointing down. So that's a little odd. Because you've got all the space below. I think if you flip this and then you move that down, I think that typically those when you click it, it goes down unless it's like really long. And of course this could be really long because you've got like everything in 15-minute increments here. And I wouldn't suggest going through and like thinking about a way to well, okay, so 11, 11:15, 12, 12:15, 12:30, 12:30. I'm not sure why it moves in 15-minute. Like there's just some interesting choices of information shown here. It's either moving at 15 consistently, or it's yeah, that's interesting. So I'd like to get a better idea of the pattern here. As we come down, so it seems to me like this is, confirmed time. You had confirm address up here. Seems like confirmed time, and I really do think that could go here in this next position. And now we're at payment method, and this is. The one question I have here is what happens if there is an existing payment method? Okay, if there's an existing payment method, it seems like that may already be on file, and you could skip all of this altogether. So I would be interested to know the thoughts there. Obviously, you're entering in the number. One thing that I would say is you don't have to typically enter the dashes, and typically after you enter the first four, you'll get some sort of indicator over here that it's a Visa or MasterCard or whatever. So maybe consider adding that to the mix as well. Sammy Taylor. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so then we get to your order. What's interesting to me, like this is the confirmation screen. What's interesting to me is that we opt to do all of this in this rail when you have all of this information available to you over here. And I'm not sure I want to stop and take a second to kind of walk through this, because I get that you are at this point at the very end showing them the order, okay? But it seems like, it seems like this could be something that, let's just roll up here to the top. And we've got, let's say, so delivery address. You've got your order. And I'm going to move this to the side just for a second. It seems like this content should be roughly the same size. So your order, here's the address, information. So what I'm trying to do here is, well, I can't change that. Okay. I'm going to come back in, order summary. So I'm just going to delete that away because this is a copy of the thing, right? So it's just like order summary. Great, that's there. I would almost move delivery address and change up so that the change button never was never at risk of like running out of space over here, and because then this information can wrap. I do the same thing for delivery time and payment details. And maybe this is where like this change comes over. So order summary, pear walnut salad, here's your total. These pieces I really see coming into play as the steps fill. So if you're on this area, I think that's fine to say, hey, checkout, here's my address. I confirm the address, and then upon confirming the address, I get something that looks like this. Sorry, I'm just going to drag this over. See what you did there. Alright, so we get something that looks like this. I just got to move it over just a tad. And maybe this becomes like, maybe there's a rectangle here that fills out the space so that you can kind of see clearly what's going on. You know, sometimes you'll need more space, sometimes you'll need less space. But the idea is that, you know, this delivery address, you'll probably need that right away. Right? I'm sorry. Let's group that. So delivery address, you'll need it right away. This order summary could get long. Okay? You could have, I mean, it could grow. And this whole, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to create like a 2-column design that allows you to go back and see these this information as you've selected it. So the first step here is going to be pretty simple by comparison. All right, so order summary, deliver, or you know, you could also say order, order details, whatever the case may be. But I'm going to guess you're going to have more than one dish. All right, and this is going to get longer and longer and longer. So that's why I'm like saying, okay, you know, you could put a lot of dishes in here. Okay, this information over here, delivery address, delivery time, payment details, that's fine having it over here. But I wouldn't want to have this information under here because, frankly, if I put all of this information over here, I wouldn't have much room over here for this to grow. All right, so I'm trying to give this a maximum depth to grow in, and this is something that would appear. Oh crap! I gotta duplicate that and bring it back. Didn't mean to rip apart Luigi's thing. Okay. This is something that would fill as these elements filled. So right now, this bit that you've got, Luigi, okay. Like if this is it, the delivery, like all of this information wouldn't exist yet. So I guess I should bother to duplicate that, move it over. So like payment details, not there yet. This not yet there yet, not 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 there yet. But we've got your order details, the cost, the delivery address, and then once you select this, then that information would show up. And then once you add the payment details, then that information would show up. But this continues to fill out, so you're getting a sense of the information that you're collecting as you go, rather than kind of going through this. Yes, the stepper still is important because you still have that, but like right now, there's just nothing over here. Okay, and I'm trying to make sense of the space, and it should be doing some work. And right now, I feel like we're just going through steps, but we're not really confirming for people what's going on. Yes, you have the mapping. The way you're using the map is smart. I like it. But after you get the map, like, I think it's time to bring back and start confirming for people. Here's what you're ordering. Here's where it's going. Here's when it's going to get to you. Here's the information for the credit card. And you've got all that space. And then when you get down here to the bottom, you know, this basically, you know, here's your order. That's the only spot where I'm like, I'm not quite sure what to do over here. And maybe it's just, At that point, I could see special instructions, like any special instructions for our team. Place order. Like I could see inputting something at that point, because here's your order, confirm and place order, confirm place order. I could see that, but like not doing anything with the space over to the right or over to the left for all that time seems like a missed opportunity, when you could be doing something like this in that space. All right. Chew on that. I do like the flow. I feel like I now better understand that right rail. It's the left side that's concerning me at the moment. And then your order confirmation, that's fine. That might be an opportunity also to come back and say, boom, photo of food or some sort of success picture, whatever. Something to like get them excited that their food is on the way. Also, what happens if they, is there a cancel order, or empty cart? Like what happens if I say I want to, I want to edit this? If I do change it, I see edit and remove. Okay, so that's there. Was that always there? Probably was when I was just a dummy. Let's see. Yeah, edit remove is always there. Edit remove, change. This works. Just let's figure out the ending, and then again, consider what do you do with that space that's kind of hanging out there. Seems like an odd thing to have just like floating there. Okay. Let's go over to Rebecca. I'll close that down. Rebecca's working on Supermelon, and I want to check this again. I think Rebecca had some questions specifically related to the footer. Designing footer for mobile tablet. I did laptop already. You can see it here. Any instruction, how can I make the instructions more clear for devs? Okay, so first thing I want to do is I want to view this inside of a pro. And I would be honest with you, if you're making something for devs, I think the easiest thing to do is make sure that they have a prototype that they can look at. Like, here's the prototype that is the source of truth for how this should function. And if we go over here to prototype, I don't see any, like, I don't see an intro screen. So I'm going to try to find, maybe you don't have maybe you haven't used prototype at this point. So I'm going to say that we're just going to link these two, and that gives me a starting point for the prototype. The only reason I'm doing that is so I can look at this in prototype mode. I just want to look at this one screen. It may cause an issue because it doesn't know quite what frame to use for everything, but we'll see. We'll see how Figma deals with it. Okay, that's fine. I don't necessarily need the Chrome around it. What I'm mainly looking for is, can I look at it as it would appear on a mobile device? So we're scrolling down. This feels a little small on mobile, and I'm going to come back over really fast. Yeah, 12 I think is going too low. This is information that is hanging out at 18. I think these should be like 14, maybe 15, 16. I do think taking it down makes sense, but taking it to 12 is too small. This is a good size here, but I can understand why you might not want to have everything at that size. it's just these got too small on you. Let's keep going. These buttons feel really large on mobile. Like there's a lot of padding here. I don't necessarily think you need that much. I'm also curious about manufacturer verification, and then you've got this information, and quality manufacturing doesn't get much better than this. These are doing different jobs, okay? And I mentioned this the other day. These are doing different jobs. This should have a different style from the label, or the label should have a different style from that. But I'm not sure if this is an artifact that was still present somewhere else in the build, but I just wanted to mention that. Let's get down here to. Okay, so here's the footer. The problem I have with the footer right now for mobile is that we have to think about, I'm using my finger to click on these, okay? And if I'm using my finger to click on these, I'm going to need, at minimum, more line height. Because right now, it's like I got to reach for some sort of stylus and like precision click, okay? So the first thing I would want to do down here, and this is, by the way, is not an uncommon problem to have, and tablets work the same way. All right, so if you're working on a footer for a tablet, you essentially have the same challenge that Rebecca's facing right now. And I'm just going to grab a few of these. I'm not going to worry about the links, these things. So there's a couple of different ways you can look at this. One is, oh hey, it's a footer, and you know, it doesn't need a whole lot of attention. But footers are fantastic. Footers are one of those things that, like, I think are really one of the clear signs of a really good website is a good footer. And you know, there will be people that say, well, what does that even mean? Well, it means that if a website has been really, if it's reached a point of high refinement, the footer's good. Okay, so let's look at this. And the first thing I want to do is I want to look at like the line height here. And it's got it at 150, but it's, you know, you've got it set at 10. So I think that's pretty small to begin with. So if it's at 10, I'm going to change this to 200, which would be, by the way, 20. And at 200, we're beginning to get a little more. Oh, well, never mind. It's off to the side. I can't really see it here. We're beginning to get a little more space available to us. And I don't really want to grab that first line, so. All right, so that's like step one, more line height. Step two, I've got to question, you know, should this be 12? And a lot of people would say, well, Chris, it's mobile. What, you know, how, you know, and the question then becomes, well, how big is it on like the regular? And okay, so it's 10 there. It's 10 there. That's fine. What are we doing over here? 14. Okay, I think that 12 makes plenty of sense. So I would go 12, and then I would go more line height. And yes, that may make it deeper. That may frankly make it to where you want to make this one column instead of two like this. I'm not opposed to having it two. It really just comes down to, can you have enough space between the columns to where, again, I can like literally put my finger there. By the way, I don't think you need this about. Well, maybe this isn't clickable. Yeah, that's probably not clickable. So about Super Melon, for instance. Obviously, this is now getting tight, so you want to give that some room. And when you look at these side by side, it should be clearer that one is going to be easier to hit with your finger than the other one. Now, I could even go further with this. I could say, okay, well, you know, instead of 200, I'm going to go 250. You know, and some of these, like, they're supposed to be multi-line, so I would want to build these so that they're stacking appropriately. Like there's let's see, Mountain View, California icon, hours. So hours seems like something that shouldn't necessarily stack quite like that. It might be like its own unit, so maybe that's like 175. You know, because this is supposed to be a unit together. I'm sure there's probably something in here as well, but by and large, I think that allowing this to go larger is, by and large, allowing this to go larger is smart. You know, if you know you've got this really teeny tiny type down here at the bottom, I don't think there's any reason to hide that. 10 is small, 12 still works. You know, this information I also tend to want to not have on the tippy top bottom. You've also got the follow us. You know, the follow us is these things. This is probably where I would go ahead and just, you know, center follow us, let it kind of operate with these down below. Your payment information, Visa, MasterCard, pay. This is where I think, you know, if these are little icons, and I'm just going to redraw them over here as little icons, this might be where you want to, you know, the question I have is, are these meant to be clickable? If they're just there for display, sure, knock yourself out, go 4 wide. Okay? So long as those aren't supposed to be clickable. If those are supposed to be clickable, then I think you've got to really consider going the route of making them a little bigger. You don't have to make them fill out the entire column, but considering doing something like that. All right? But the question is, am I intending on being able to click each of these? I don't think so. I think these are just there for display. These I'm having to click. And this is where, you know, 44 always comes into mind. You know, do I have 44 pixels to the top and bottom to make, you know, to make the connection with the target? You know, and if we draw that box, and this is a, you know, let's see here, 44, and this is the old standard for iOS, 44. All right, and let's change that color. Obviously, you're borderline, right? There's a lot of accidental clicks that can happen in there. However, this is going to 2x up. And people are like, will say, well, what do you mean 2x? It's going to 2x. Well, this is 375, all right? The pixels per, the pixel density is of that screen is actually 750. So this is actually 22. Oh, it's not that 22, Jesus. This is actually 22. And when you look at 22, yeah, you can get in there. All right? You got to have 44. This everything here doubles up. So I think you're okay. If you're, you know, again, if you're really concerned, you can come back down here and say 250 instead of 200, and you're going to get a better connectivity with the end of somebody's little chubby fingers if they're trying to get in here. And yeah, I'd probably just go with the 250. I mean, it's pixels. It's free pixels. But look at the difference we've got on depth here. Okay? it should be really evident when we start thinking about using this little chubby finger, and I have the chubbiest of chubby fingers. Like getting in here, nearly impossible. Getting in here, possible. All right. So we've improved that. Again, handing off to the devs. We've talked about this. I think having a prototype where it says, okay, this is how this flows for the desktop. This is how it flows for a mobile. And you may break this up and have a mobile version, a mobile prototype and a desktop prototype. Getting those things to where you can port that across to them, I think is fine. You also asked about the tablet. I want to take a second on you asked about tablet footer. So we've got this footer, right? And I'm going to bring it up. And I think if you've adjusted for mobile, you've largely already adjusted for tablet as well. Okay? Now, you probably will have some questions about, how should this space out? Should it be 4 columns? I think it should. But, figure that piece out for you. I'm going to just distribute space horizontally. There it is. As you can tell, it kind of anchors over to the left. You still have some other things down here as well. The follow us and the cookie policy and all that. And on that, I think that maybe you go a little longer. You could always do that too. Where this box is actually longer. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with having a little space. All right, it's a footer. And that's the big thing that a lot of people struggle with footers is like, oh, I got this extra space. It's fine. It's at the bottom of the page. So long as it's clean and it's functional, it's a footer. Don't fret over it too much. All right. That subscribe is probably a little large, 24, 20. And yeah, like I was saying about this stuff. This is some where I would come back and I'd say, okay, you know what, italic 18, and then it's all doing different jobs. All right, I'll leave that alone though, because I don't know what I don't know where you're at with that. I know we mentioned it before, but I just want to point it out again. And let's come back to your questions really fast. Well, where did it go? Oh, here we go. Photo tablet. Yep. Translate. Yeah, that translation thing, I think, is really where the prototype and seeing how it click, these things click from one to the next. I really do believe that is very important. Also, I got to be honest with you. This is where, and I know we messed around with responsive the other day. If there is a section, and I'm gonna jump out here on a limb here, and I'm gonna say, hey, this hero unit, okay, I want it to show up a certain way, okay, and I'm not going to get into the fussiness, because what I discovered with that responsive plugin is that I was trying to make it do too much, and really, if you're trying to communicate with your developers, one of the things that you might be trying to communicate is, okay, they're looking at this hero unit, and they're like, okay, So she's got this. So she's got that. And I don't understand what this Rebecca person's wanting me to do with this. Because I can't look at all these prototypes and tie them together in my brain. That is what your client has said about his team. I wouldn't be happy if I was his team. But I'm just grabbing these and I'm placing them into simple containers, okay? You could duplicate all this. I'm just doing it really fast for our purposes of showing you this. Oh, hey, it went all the way down there. All right. I'm going to move this over here and bring this over. Okay, so we've got desktop, we've got iPad Pro, we've got iPhone, right? And the question that the development team is probably going to have is, okay, you know, I was looking at the prototype here, and I'm not sure how this is supposed to translate from one to the next. Okay, you could obviously write the media queries for them that say, okay, at this breakpoint do this. All right. I don't know if that's in the budget for whatever your client paid for. It depends. A lot of that comes back to what you build for them comes back to what was in the agreement. All right, but I want to. Here's where I want to use. I'm going to put one more frame up, and this frame is going to be iPhone X. I'm just going to call this Hero. And now we're going to come in, we're going to open responsive, and we're going to select these screens. We're going to add them as the input frames. It's frames, screens. Now we're going to take Hero, and we're going to add that as the responsive frame. And this stretching, so I don't like that. Why is it stretching? This is really weird. Oh, weird. Okay. Well, this is really slowing down. I'm not sure what's going on. Eek. What is happening with this? Okay. So, oh, it's at the scale. Okay. Let's just put this on center. Center, 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 center. Let's just or even like left. Whatever we need to do. I'm going to pull this back. So slow. Oh goodness. Okay. So now that's back to where we had it. I'm just gonna make this longer. Oh, that's weird. All right. So we're just gonna lock this thing to the top. Something really weird about this shape. Okay, so it goes down there, goes up for tablet, then then it moves over for desktop. And that should give them an idea of how it functions. Obviously the shape may not be doing exactly what you want it to do, so we'd have to go in and work with that. But that's the next step that I would look at, is like, okay, can I use this on specific pieces of the puzzle to show them how this transitions? And I would pick things that are aspects of the design that translate it from one to the next. Okay, like if you have an area that goes from 2 columns to 4 columns, and it does that universally throughout the app, I would show them a transition of that so that they get, oh, okay, I see what, okay, so when it's 4, it then goes down to 2, and then maybe you list like, okay, and here are all the places where that should happen. Okay? So giving them these visuals should allow them to connect the dots, because I do suspect, and I can't tell you for certain, I do suspect that one of the things that your client has been saying implies a language barrier. All right? And if there is a language barrier at all, then getting through that with visuals is probably a really good idea. All right? So I would look at that, and you may be wondering, well, Chris, how do I record it? Or how do I send that across? I would send that across as like a Loom recording so that they can see how the transition actually happens. Okay? All right. Finally, Eve. So it looks like Eve has been working with her. So Eve's in the portfolio phase. All right? And Eve went through visual exploration, and now she is on her homepage. And the idea here with the homepage is that she's going to apply her fonts and her color palettes and her images, and we're going to get a sense of what her homepage and her case study look like. And it looks to me like Eve has crossed out the goldenrod version, if you will, the lighter pastel, and now she's looking at this really dark blue effort. All right, love the typography, really like the color combinations. I mean, I love that. This is Belly, B-E-L-Y display. So Belly display, as I'm guessing what it's called, and it's just so so stylish. What I really love, I gotta be honest with you, the chunky serif on that Y. That is just like nuts. And I do not get into a lot of typography that has these little geometric serifs. But this for some reason I just really like this one. I think it's because the modulation of the stroke is pretty severe for something that is so thick. It goes down to nothing, but it comes up big, and it doesn't stay down at that really thin, except for in a few spots, like the stem, the crossbar of the T, the crossbar of the H. It seems to stay thin, like moving horizontally, but everywhere else it's like really fat. So it's really nice. So let's keep going. That's interesting. Wait. Okay. All right. So you are using like a bit of a. It looks like there's a hint of color back here. I can't really see it though. I can see the CSS. Yeah. So there's a hint of color back there. You're going to use a carousel, which is fine. Carousels suffer because do people really click through? So you're going to want to set that rate at just high enough that it moves at least once while somebody's up there. But I think it can be effective, especially because you know. Here's the thing: the designer of your project is really good, so there's no reason to obscure it. Okay. A lot of people get into these. Hey, I'm gonna like put everything at like a 45-degree angle, and then I'm gonna skew it. And like, you're just hiding the fact that your work wasn't very good. This work is good. Role duration. You worked on it for a while, but it was part-time work, so it's just like something that you did off on the side. Oh, I love the label usage. Like coming back to that belly display. So lessons learned, That's clever. Having sneaking a little GIF in there of Bob Dylan. I like it. Sneaking another. So here's something that a lot of people do not do. They think that the only thing they can put inside of their case study is like artifacts from the case study. Absolutely not. You can also use like pop culture things that like, and memes are fantastic. There's so much that you can say about, you can communicate with people on an emotional level. Everybody shared a GIF, okay? The people that are going to read your case study, they get it. They get what that GIF means. It's like I was going to point out emojis, but Eve's using emojis up here. Emojis were pretty popular a few years. It started growing in popularity in portfolios a couple of years ago, okay? But I don't see a lot of GIFs, and I think this is a really natural progression. I didn't tell Eve to do this. There's nothing in the curriculum that says, hey, you should use some GIFs. But this is really smart, okay? This I like. So your sitemap, order flow, this is where this is probably fine on a desktop, okay? But the one thing I'll mention here is on a desktop, this is fine. When it goes down to mobile, this may be challenging, okay? So I might just show the user flow and hide the sitemap, because am I going to really be able to compare the two on my phone? Probably not. So I might trim that down. What if no research was performed? Healthy eats. Money to burn. There's Granny. I don't know where Tweety Bird is. What if no tests were carried out? So now you're getting back in. Okay, so now you're going to, I'm guessing this is the original cart screen, and the second part of the carousel would be the other cart screen. And this is really smart because now you're blowing the image up to the point that people can see it, which makes me wonder if like this wouldn't be a good idea to do the same thing here, although it's going to be deep, okay? And that's that's the trouble. Like, is it going to be so deep that I can't see it? Possibly. All right. Design process. Here's the things that I did. Looking forward. And you may be wondering, it's like, okay, well, what does this really look like on screen? All right. And what it really looks like on screen is this. Except this piece is going to travel down with. All right, so that's going to come down all the way down, and it's just going to be hanging out over here as a side navigation, which I think is smart. And this is one of the things that Eve discovered along the way, because she started with mobile, and then she went to the desktop. And when you design mobile first, she has some innovations with mobile that I think are really smart as well. But when you design mobile first, you begin to think about, okay, there's length here, and now I've got this information, and how do I make use of this wide screen? What do I do here? And I think this is pretty smart. Now, places where it backfires a bit on you is, wouldn't it be nice to have these instead of going this wide? You could have them go this wide, and this design doesn't really allow for that. Okay, but that's like the one. Everything in this is about trade-offs, and you have to determine, okay, where are the trade-offs in what I'm trying to do? And I think this is a logical trade-off. All right, I think the understanding the importance of navigation is more important than coming through and showing the user flows at an optimum size. I do think you need to edit that for mobile though. Healthy eats. design process. And I'm guessing these are going to be links to the different artifacts. Also notice that read detailed design process is a link here. Okay? She has taken her design process and moved it off into a deeper dive area to allow her portfolio to not get super deep. Interesting point. Charlie's doing the same thing. We have altered the methodology of how case studies should be put together, because we kept hearing from people, it's too long, it's too long, it's too long. But I really believe the process is important. So how do we do both? I can't just abandon you showing your process. I've heard too many times, oh, you did a really great job of showing your process. That's why I hired you. All right? So I still need that there. But does it have to be in the main body of portfolio or of the case study? No. No, the case study is really what did I run into that was a problem, and how did I get over it? That's the case study. It's a case study in your growth. And yes, if you're interested in if you're interested in what I learned, this does that. If you're interested in how I grow, how I did the work, well, that's here too. It's just linked. And if somebody says, hey, do you have anything that shows your process? You already do, and you can just send them the link to that page, and it'll be okay. All right? Looking forward, attributions. So she added attributions for all the little icons and things that may be in use here. Read about me, return. This is stellar. This is stellar. Overall, I think it's really strong, full speed ahead. I don't have a ton to offer up critically. I think it's really strong. Yeah, I do think that like maybe that area requires some thought. And this is really where like you've got this fade here, and I do wonder if those are going to be kind of hard to see. This is where I might come back with a tone across and just place those images inside, like have a little darker gray right there and place those images inside without the shadow so that they actually show up. It's not something you have to do, but it's a way to give this a little more structure than it has right now. Right now this is the one piece that's struggling the most. Oh, and here's the cart screen, like how you improved it. Yeah, I think it's really solid, Eve. Full speed ahead. Any of the tweaks that we need to make can be made. Oh, lovely. So this is healthy eats. This is just taking the user through the progression. Because it's the same thing, and I didn't fully realize that at first. Because it's the same thing, I might make the rotation speed a little faster. Like you don't want it strobing at them, okay, mind you. But when I thought about this carousel, I was thinking that you were going to show different parts of the project, and then if it's different parts of the project, I need it to move slower so people can kind of reorient and take it in. If it's the same thing, I need it to move a little faster, but long enough so that they can get the gist. And if the carousel has a variable rate, I might move these two faster than the final. I might go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, or actually 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so I'm not sure what carousel engine you will be employing here. Some of them have variable rate. If you have variable rate, by all means use it here. Okay. All right, and I'm going to just check. Looks like feedback loop is clean. C. So that's going to be it for today's edition of the Feedback Loop. I'm certainly glad to have you along. Please let me know if there's anything that we can do for you. If you liked this, click that subscribe button. And I hope to see all of you again next week.